When are you going to pop the question?
That's none of your business.
Come on, just tell. She's so pretty. I just,
She's a
seal the deal.
sweetheart. You'll see.
For nearly 20 years, Jason Statham has kept one truth hidden behind explosions, high-speed chases, and the toughest image in Hollywood. Fans thought they knew the man who never backs down from a fight, but the greatest battle of his life had nothing to do with action movies. It was about one woman, a relationship surrounded by breakup rumors, endless speculation, and questions that refused to disappear, somehow survived when almost nobody expected it to. Now, at 58 years old, the story behind the woman Jason Statham has quietly loved for decades is finally impossible to ignore, and what he has revealed changes the way many fans see him forever. The accident that created Jason. Jason Statham was born on July 26, 1967, in Shirebrook, Derbyshire, to a mother who worked as a dancer and a father who worked as a street market trader and lounge singer. Growing up around colorful characters on the wrong side of the law shaped an early worldview long before any of the fame arrived. Long before Hollywood, competitive diving became an early obsession, sparked by watching a stranger perform a high dive during a family holiday in Miami, Florida. A local swimming club in Great Yarmouth, Norfolk, eventually led to a spot inside the British National Diving School in 1985. 12 years of training followed, including Olympic trials for both the 1988 and 1992 Games, a 12th place finish at the World Championships in 1992, and a spot representing England at the 1990 Commonwealth Games in Auckland. Years later, in a 2008 interview with the BBC, Statham explained that falling short of the Olympics ended up sharpening focus rather than dampening ambition, channeling that same discipline directly into a future acting career. When a diving career failed to reach the Olympics, modeling contracts with French Connection, Tommy Hilfiger, and Levi's jeans filled the gap instead. Work for French Connection eventually led to a meeting with an emerging filmmaker named Guy Ritchie, who needed someone who genuinely understood the world of market stall trading for an upcoming crime film. Ritchie tested the unknown model by issuing a direct challenge, selling fake jewelry to a skeptical audience on the spot, and the performance was convincing enough to land the role outright. Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels arrived in theaters in 1998, earning a modest £5,000 for the leading role, but launching an entire acting career almost overnight. Snatch followed in 2000, paying £15,000 and pulling in more than $80 million worldwide, cementing a partnership between actor and director that would continue for decades to come. That partnership eventually stretched across several more collaborations, proving the connection formed on a market stall audition tape was never a one-time accident. Hollywood came calling almost immediately. Ghosts of Mars and The One both arrived in 2001, followed by The Transporter in 2002, a role that ran for 3 films and established a signature style built around precision driving and hand-to-hand combat. Critics eventually took notice of the pattern, with film critic Armand White praising the consistency of the work across multiple releases, calling it one of the best track records of any working movie star during that era. Empire magazine offered a more mixed assessment of certain sequels, though even that review credited the work with establishing an entirely new kind of action hero, equally comfortable delivering gruff one-liners and executing high-level martial arts choreography in the same scene. The Italian Job brought mainstream box office success in 2003, while Crank in 2006 turned into a cult classic thanks to a relentless, high-adrenaline premise unlike anything else in theaters that year. War arrived in 2007 alongside Jet Li, followed by The Bank Job and Death Race in 2008, both cementing a reputation as one of the most reliable action leads working anywhere in the industry. The Expendables franchise began in 2010, reuniting an entire generation of action stars under one single banner. Around the same time, the Fast and Furious franchise introduced a new character into the mix, Deckard Shaw, who first appeared in 2013 and remained a fixture of the series for the following decade across multiple sequels and spin-off films. Unlike many leading actors, performing real stunts became a career trademark, a choice that built enormous trust with directors and stunt coordinators throughout the industry, though it occasionally came with real physical risk. A dangerous filming accident once left Statham trapped underwater, and years of diving training reportedly played a direct role in staying calm long enough to escape safely. Recent years brought continued success through films, including The Meg in 2018, a project that paid direct tribute to those early diving routes, along with Wrath of Man in 2021, Operation Fortune in 2023, and The Beekeeper in 2024, proving that decades into a career, the appetite for action had not slowed down even slightly. Box office totals across an entire filmography now stretch well past $2 billion worldwide, placing this filmography among the most commercially successful in modern action cinema. Despite that scale of success, red carpet premieres remain one of the few places where the private side of an otherwise guarded personal life occasionally slips into public view. The blockbuster career looked almost inevitable in hindsight, but the truth is that none of it was ever part of the original plan. The first serious love. Long before any of that fame arrived, an 18-year-old model named Kelly Brook crossed paths with a 30-year-old Statham during a photo shoot in the modeling years of the late 1990s. The connection turned serious quickly, leading to nearly 7 years together, and an eventual engagement between the two, complete with a shared home in the English countryside. When early film roles started arriving, Brook made a significant personal sacrifice, pausing an already successful career, hosting a daily program on MTV in order to move to America and support a partner chasing a Hollywood dream. Years later, speaking on the podcast How to Fail, Brook openly reflected on that decision, describing elements of codependency within the relationship and admitting to putting personal ambitions on hold during those years while a partner's career flourished instead. The relationship ultimately ended in the summer of 2004. Brook later explained feeling increasingly neglected as the dynamic between the couple grew more one-sided, eventually admitting to falling out of love entirely by the time things came to an end. Reports at the time suggested a separate romantic connection had already formed with actor Billy Zane, adding public tension to an already difficult breakup that played out across British tabloids for weeks. Looking back on the relationship decades later, Brook has described the breakup as one of the best decisions of an entire life, despite the pain it caused at the time. No children came from those 7 years together, and both former partners eventually moved on to build separate families of their own, with Brook later becoming engaged multiple times before eventually marrying model Jeremy Parisi. During those years together, Brook rose to become one of the most photographed models in Britain, earning recognition as the sexiest woman in the world from FHM magazine in 2005, only 1 year after the relationship with Statham had already ended. Neither former partner has spoken with much bitterness about the other in recent years, describing the relationship instead as an important chapter that simply ran its natural course. What happened next rarely gets mentioned in most retellings of this story. A brief connection with Australian singer and actress Sophie Monk followed in 2005, lasting only a matter of months before quietly ending without any public drama at all, largely overshadowed at the time by a busy filming schedule on both sides. A much more significant relationship began in September of 2006 with an Israeli actress named Alex Zossman, known for film roles including Shut Up and Kiss Me and You Always Stalk the One You Love. The two reportedly met at an industry event in Los Angeles and connected quickly over a shared passion for acting. That relationship lasted nearly 4 full years, complete with red carpet appearances and holiday trips alongside friends including Orlando Bloom and Miranda Kerr during a vacation in St. Bart's. Very little detail about those years ever reached the public, a pattern that would come to define every relationship going forward. The connection with Zossman ended quietly in early 2010, without any confirmed explanation ever offered to the press. Unlike the public tension surrounding the end of the relationship with Brook, This particular breakup left barely a trace in the headlines, fading from tabloid coverage within a matter of weeks and leaving almost no lasting public record behind. That same year, an entirely different kind of connection was about to begin, one that would end up outlasting every relationship that came before it combined, quietly reshaping an entire personal life over the following decade and a half. The woman who changed everything. A party in London during 2009 brought together Statham and a young Victoria's Secret model named Rosie Huntington-Whiteley. Born in Plymouth, Devon, and raised on a family farm alongside two younger siblings, Huntington-Whiteley had already built a major modeling career by that point, working with brands including Burberry and becoming a face of Victoria's Secret starting in 2006. The connection between the two was immediate, though neither person rushed to make the relationship public right away. Reflecting on that first meeting years later, during an Instagram question and answer session, Huntington-Whiteley described instant chemistry from the very beginning, adding in a separate interview with Elle magazine that the reality of standing in front of a friend the next morning felt unexpectedly different from any preconceived notion of a tough action star. The two grew closer while filming overlapped during the production of Transformers: Dark of the Moon in 2010, with Huntington-Whiteley landing that role after a single audition and beginning filming only 3 weeks later, marking a big-screen debut in that very film. A red carpet debut finally arrived at the Vanity Fair Oscar party in February of 2011, followed by an appearance together at the Met Gala just months later that same year. Unlike the whirlwind pace of some Hollywood romances, this relationship developed slowly and deliberately over several years. Huntington-Whiteley later explained that unexpected groundedness stood out immediately, describing a level of ordinary humility that felt completely different from the tough guy image seen on movie screens, crediting years spent working as a painter and decorator and trading on market stalls for that same grounded quality. After 5 years together, an engagement finally arrived in January of 2016, confirmed publicly once a diamond ring appeared during an appearance at the Golden Globe Awards. Jeweler Neil Lane, the man behind the ring, later revealed the piece was crafted in rose gold and reportedly valued at roughly $350,000. Reports at the time suggested the proposal actually took place during a private holiday in Phuket, Thailand, just days before that public red carpet reveal, though neither party ever confirmed the exact location or moment. Huntington-Whiteley announced a pregnancy in early 2017, and her son Jack Oscar Statham arrived on June 24th of that year, weighing 8 pounds 8 ounces. Fatherhood arrived at age 49, a milestone that reportedly shifted priorities considerably for a performer known mostly for on-screen chaos and destruction. Speaking to Extra 1 year later, Huntington-Whiteley described a hands-on partner who happily woke at 5 in the morning for early duty, allowing extra rest on especially difficult nights. A second pregnancy followed in 2021, with daughter Isabella James Statham, born on February 2, 2022. The family relocated from Los Angeles back to London shortly before that birth, driven by a shared desire to raise both children with a proper British education and a stronger connection to extended family. Huntington-Whiteley later explained to the Sunday Times that choosing a school represented one of the most important decisions any parent could make, shaping an entire childhood in ways that mattered deeply to both parents. Family trips to Devon during the summer months became a treasured tradition, giving both children the same countryside experiences their mother once enjoyed while growing up on a working farm. In one especially playful description shared with a magazine, Huntington-Whiteley referred to a partner as a human playground around the children, someone constantly being climbed on and rolled around with, despite an already demanding filming schedule. Despite immense fame on both sides, photographs of the children rarely appear publicly, and interviews about family life stay deliberately vague. That same instinct toward privacy that once protected an entire relationship now extends fully toward two children being raised as far from tabloid attention as possible, growing up with distinctly British accents despite years spent partly in America. Occasional glimpses do slip through on social media, including a rare vacation photo carousel shared during a 2025 family trip. But even those moments stay carefully curated and infrequent. The truth behind the rumors. Persistent rumors have circled this relationship for years, including repeated claims of a secret wedding held on New Year's Eve back in 2018 after Statham was spotted wearing a new ring in public. Representatives have never confirmed any ceremony or public appearances since that date, and public appearances continue describing the couple as engaged rather than married, with no official wedding announcement ever released to media outlets. Another common rumor suggests marriage has been avoided due to relationship trouble behind closed doors. The truth appears far simpler. Huntington Whiteley explained in a 2018 interview with Extra that work commitments and the arrival of children pushed wedding planning down the priority list, adding that a ceremony would eventually happen once their son grew old enough to participate in a meaningful way. In a separate conversation with Self magazine, Huntington Whiteley pushed back directly against the outside pressure many long-term couples feel to formalize a relationship, insisting that genuine happiness mattered far more than any wedding date. A separate rumor claims the 20-year age difference between the couple has caused ongoing friction or an eventual expiration date on the relationship. Multiple interviews suggest the exact opposite is true, with Huntington Whiteley specifically praising a groundedness that comes from decades spent working market stalls and nightclub doors long before fame ever arrived at all, calling that real-world experience a genuine asset rather than a liability. The final rumor worth addressing involves the earlier relationship with Kelly Brook, often exaggerated into stories involving major scandal or betrayal, severe enough to end a career. The documented truth points towards something far less dramatic, a 7-year relationship that simply grew apart under the pressure of two competing careers, constant physical distance, and the emotional toll of watching one partner's career accelerate while the other stalled. None of the rumors that have followed this relationship for years holds up particularly well once placed next to the actual documented timeline. But before that, the remarkable story of the woman who quietly became the greatest love of Jason Statham's life. At 58 years old, an entire career built on danger and stunts stands in sharp contrast to the quiet, guarded stability found back home. More than 15 years have now passed since that first meeting in London, longer than any previous relationship by a wide margin, including the 7 years spent with Brooke and the 4 years spent with Zosman combined. Statham rarely discusses the relationship publicly, sticking to a lifelong pattern of guarding personal matters closely from press and fans alike. Huntington Whiteley, meanwhile, has been far more open, once publicly celebrating a partner as the love of an entire life during a birthday tribute shared online for millions of followers to see. That single public declaration, posted without any accompanying interview or explanation, remains one of the clearest glimpses ever offered into a relationship built almost entirely behind closed doors. 2 children, a shared home back in London, and more than a decade of red carpet appearances all point toward a partnership built on genuine substance rather than headlines. Career success has never slowed down either, with box office hits continuing well into a 6th decade of life and no signs of slowing down or stepping back anytime soon. Huntington Whiteley has built an equally impressive second act away from modeling, launching a beauty and skincare company called Rose Inc. that grew from a digital platform into a full retail line, earning public praise and support along the way. For a performer defined by chaos, danger, and relentless physical intensity on screen, the quietest, most guarded relationship of an entire life turned out to be the one that actually lasted the longest. Sometimes the toughest man in the room simply chooses to fight hardest for the people nobody else gets to see up close, protecting a private world that fame was never allowed to touch. Every engagement, every quiet breakup, and every guarded interview from decades past now reads like a long, winding path leading toward one single, lasting relationship that finally stuck. From a diving board in Norfolk to some of the biggest action franchises in movie history, the story of Jason Statham has always involved more determination than most people ever realize. Behind the stunts, and the tough guy reputation sits a private family life built slowly and carefully. Which part of this story surprised you the most? Drop a comment down below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more real stories behind your favorite Hollywood stars.